You're gonna think me real petty for doing this, but I I can't. I cannot. I actually cannot. This is ridiculous. Look at this. Obviously, you know that there was a raid at the Capitol yesterday. Jesus Christ. And the one thing that I did not think that people were gonna do. I knew they were gonna try to blame it on Antifa. I knew they were gonna say all the stupid crap they want about election fraud, but I did not know that this was gonna happen. Look at this. They were tear gassed and shot with rubber bullets, kidnapped and arrested. That is true. They protested, and these guys are streaming Blue Lives Matter, attacking the police. One person got shot after the entire police force was in a giant gang brawl with these people, and they fell back like ants, giving all of their goods to a grasshopper. That's what I said. And this guy said, "You realize those protests happen in like 50 different cities with different crime rates and different cops. I'm not even defending them because they did just walk in, but once they were in there, tear gas and flashbangs. What do you want, a massacre?" And reasonably, I responded with the truth. 100 cities had to watch peaceful protesters be tear gassed, beaten by officers on horseback, hosed, attacked by dogs, obviously kidnapped and arrested, as we saw before, and even run over. Everybody remembers that. That one example of the Ku Klux Klan member running over protesters. White nationalists were arrested for most instances. Okay, maybe not. I don't actually know. They were arrested in over half the cities that were actually hit by riots, and their crimes were substantial. They committed mass arson. They were actively looting. So I'll say, depending on how severe the riot was, just based on the numbers, we know they were caught and arrested in literally over half the cities that were hit by riots. So I'll say it's about 60-40, and I'm just going to say 50-50 between white nationalists, the oppressors, and rioters, the oppressed. These people stormed. Oh, another example of patriots wreaking havoc. These people stormed the Capitol walls, fist fighting the police. They literally climbed up the wall. I'm dead. They destroyed the room where electoral votes were being counted and intentionally beat people in there through. They beat up the police officers. They injured several police officers. And all they did was get a pat on the back and a few arrests and one shot. I'm gonna go into detail with this later. Protests are local, while the raid was planned. Hence, it's given the tear gas blocking masks they wore as they sieged and the breaking of windows to alleviate said tear gas. This has been in planning for weeks on both the Donald Win and by the Proud Boys in general, since they have a communication chain. I did not actually know that they were a real organization. I thought they were just local. I didn't know they actually could communicate with each other until November of last year, if you believe it or not. But yeah, I thought they were just another social movement like Antifa or something like that. But no, they're connected. Oh well. This was the most damaging attack on the capital of our entire country in 200 years, and after little resistance, they were left to roam free and do whatever they wanted, while politicians cowered in their barricades. They were stuck in barricade until they left. The two situations are not comparable, and the disparity is disgusting. And I said either come to reality or accept a valid argument, or attempt a valid argument. And I said that it was easily verifiable and not a narrative. So he just deleted his responses, which is a pretty reasonable response. So, oh well. Oh man, now I gotta deal with this guy. Now I gotta deal with this guy. Oh well. This guy replies to me, a bullet in the neck of an army vet is a warning shot to you? No one was shooting blacks and Black Lives Matter protesters when they were breaking into and robbing countless businesses. If they'd shot a black woman, the whole world would talk about it, the officer would be fired. This girl, I'm just gonna go ahead and ignore that. Blah 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 blah. Naturally, I was appalled. So I responded, appalled. What was the absolute nonsense that you just typed? Of all the people who were dragged from their cars, beaten in the streets, and even the people who died of asphyxiation in actual protests, you were attempting to compare this to a Capitol raid? They shot a single bullet that happened to hit somebody and kill them, and immediately the police force began hunting the shooter. They let all of these people roam free after they accidentally shot somebody. It wasn't even meant to hit her in the neck, but because it did, nobody took credit for it, of course, but because it's somebody got shot, they pulled back immediately, as if it was nothing, even though they were getting beaten. Several police officers were injured, and yet peaceful protesters get their supplies destroyed, get their children pepper sprayed, and rioters just get a whole bunch of police cars pushing them into armed protesters. Or if they're white nationalists, nothing happens to them, though. The 6 black men stood below in suits attempting to walk in, while they were lined up in units. They couldn't have made it past the first 2 steps. The same white nationalists that participated in the raid were arrested and acquitted for mass arson and looting during the same riots that you blame the social movement for. They let them go. Taking into account that these white nationalists were not arrested for their crimes, but the black children who did the same are now felons, the notion that these 2 events can be compared to is ridiculous. They let the white nationalists go, but the black kids, you can't let them go. They are crimes. They are assault to the nation. Nation Capitol building destroyed, offices of government officials vandalized, and the police fist-fought them while destroying the supplies of protesters and killing more people in their wake. Taylor had over 20 bullets put in her. Brooks had 2. Rice got 2. And he was 12. What happened to those officers? Taylor got every bit of press. It took 9 months and 24 days for any officers to be fired. They didn't even get arrested. They were fired. The woman takes an accidental bullet, and the officers being hunted for on the same day. Rice was 12, and no repercussions came to his officers even after 8 years. One of them was fired, but they were nothing. Literally nothing. Brooks' officer was charged, but the police unions protected them. None of these people were fired. Some of these people were fired. None of them saw jail time. Botham Jean was shot in his own apartment by an officer who broke into his house, and she saw 2 months. Whoever shot this woman is already being investigated and a trial established for them, and it hasn't even been a day. Take your bullcrap narrative elsewhere because of hundreds of protests, a dozen riots, and nearly 10 months for a newly famous black woman to get an officer fired is equality to you. You are insane. So, obviously I was a bit miffed. I was reasonably upset, okay? And I went far. I went farther. He hasn't replied, obviously, even though it's been 40 minutes. See, and this dude, I was actually replying to his reply to her. This guy says, don't remember a single bullet being fired. They went on for longer. They were robbing stores and breaking crap. If Trump won and Black Lives Matter protesters did this, the whole world would cry about it and everyone would hold Trump accountable. Now, obviously he hasn't replied to anything yet because I kind of shoved it all down his throat, but I'm just going to go ahead and read you my replies. It takes millions of voices to get any punishment for a police officer who killed a black woman in her own home, even if he's a rapist. Yet you equate that to an immediate response from the police force who allowed rioters who stormed the Capitol to A, enter the Capitol gates without resistance, B, injure several police officers by beating them with flags. Police officers kill 3 people a year. 3 people a day for less. But this is crossing the line. They vandalized and looted the Capitol, attacked much more significantly than any other attack. There have been none, but the statement stands because it's still the most detrimental attack. I meant to put day for that year, so that's my bad. D, swing and threaten them with loaded firearms. E, take selfies and even stick around the Capitol after the aftermath. And then attempt to blame it on Antifa by using social media posts of white supremacists as proof. That dude who has the fur on, QAnon, shaman. The guy with the tattoo, white supremacist associated with Proud Boys. The claims have already been debunked. For months, these fools have been threatening and intimidated voters, as well as the Electoral College, because of their own unwillingness to accept reality. And now things have gotten out of hand, and everyone's attempted to justify this with madness with a single bullet that wasn't even meant to go into her. There was just as much police resistance when the same Proud Boys were beating up people in the streets. Barely any. They did not bust out guns or batons for them either. They did not hose them down or send the dogs to attack them. They didn't pepper spray them or spray them with rubber bullets. They tried to push back, lost, gave up, refused to get violence, and after a bullet was fired, they gave the Capitol up to domestic terrorists. There were pipe bombs and Mazel Tov cocktails near the raid. They were prepared to blow people up if they were not let through, and they even let 3 of their own die from medical complications just to get their sick kicks. And nonetheless, they got a few rounds of tear gas and a single accidental shot. You know that was not supposed to go into her neck because nobody took credit for it. Attempting to justify this is sick. And one more thing. I'll have you know that this woman who was white and was shot has been getting her share fair press as well, which is why you knew she was in the army in the first place. I'm in the army as well, but whenever... Okay, that's irrelevant. Sorry. Trump told his supporters to go to the Capitol, and they took him literally. So people are saying that he should be held accountable, and they will continue to say he should be held accountable for as long as he lives, because he paid no mind to the lengths his own supporters would go. This is his fault entirely. Okay, not entirely. Not entirely. Show you the video if you like. Oh great. Now I have to talk these idiots down too. Of course, what are you gonna do? Either way, I just wanted to share that with you. So that's it.